Swiss round, we've got Giovanni Batelli on the left and Matthias Bocke-Jakobsen on the right. We have got ourselves Dragapult against Charizard. Dragapult.
Yeah, we've got a fantastic little matchup here as our players are placing down their prizes. That gives you a glimpse into exactly what we're actually going to be seeing on the stream there as well. You know, Matthias, right there, you can see Duskull's in his list, so he's not only piloting a deck with those two big Terra Pokemon EX, but also a third stage 2 line, whereas we've got Giovanni on the left there with a bit more of a straightforward list. Of course, we're going to be looking at some really intricate plays here. Our players are ready. Both active Pokemon are down now. Prizes laid out. We'll get confirmation who's kicking us off. There's the fist bump. Round 12 of this Bologna Special Championships is underway. Matthias is kicking us off.
And I hate to break it to you, Matthias might think he's playing a third stage 2 line. Not yet, he isn't. He's only playing 2 Duskull. They are both prize. That line is unavailable. So, since we've got our first Buddy Poffin being played, let's remind ourselves about this Dragapult deck. Now, Dragapult is, you get your Drag Cloak, which is your draw engine, that's your stage 1. And then Dragapult is your stage 2, and you've got Phantom Dive, maybe the best attack in the game, 200 to the active, 6 damage counters on the bench in any way you like. What Matthias has said here is, you know what? It's not enough. It's not enough power. So we've also got Charizard, that big Pokemon that accelerates energy when you evolve into it, and then does 180 damage, plus 30 for each prize card your opponent's taken. And then we've got Dusknoir, which can self-KO to drop 13 damage counters. But remember, every time you give up a prize, Charizard gets more powerful, so that's why we see that in here. But again, in this game, for at least a few turns, Dusknoir is off the table.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, very well put there, Ross, as we do see in the side. Yeah, just using that Buddy Poffin to get further Dreepies down and additional Pokemon like that Charmander there as well. A great late game sweeper. A second one also hits the field at the same time. This is all going very nicely to begin with an energy also in hand to start prepping. You know, up against a Dragapult list with Giovanni there, and we know this is a bit more straightforward, of course, but it can be a bit slower, and then we're going to be thinking about how we're going to navigate these turns, because the longer it goes on, more often this kind of slower form of Dragapult EX does really come to the fore. Very quickly touching on it, their game plan is a little bit more straightforward. We are utilizing Dragapult EX as sort of a core attacker, again, referencing that arguable best attack in the format, that Phantom Dive attack. But to get there, we're going to be using things like Badoo. We're going to be ticking up those itchy pollen counts and trying to slow the game down, trying to limit all of those rare candies that might be in your opponent's play whilst you're building the board in the background. I will love to highlight, though, Ross, there are 2 very unique cards in Giovanni's list, and what are they?
I was going to say, there's playing both Maractus and Genesect. We're supposed to try and remain impartial here, but I got to say, Giovanni is playing your build here. We're using Luminous Energy to retreat that Dreepy. We are then putting the Bravery Charm onto Badoo. Brave Badoo, as you like to say, Alex. And then Itchy Pollen. Tick it up by 1. There will be no item cards for Matthias. There will, however, be an evolution into a Drac Cloak and a Recon Directive. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck. Put 1 in your hand and 1 to the bottom of your deck.
Yeah, such a key core resource of being able to see more cards, draw more cards, and then kind of eventually burst into those ever so important stage 2s. Important decision here. That Cleffer is something that Matthias is eyeing up because he wants more cards in the hand. The hand isn't looking too pretty, but the other card is also very useful. That Tentacle Machine evolution would be one way to just kind of burst into potentially those stage 2s, but is targeting that draw power as key and core first. There's the Cleffer hitting the ground. Another baby Pokemon is going to be going into the active spot now. No nature alongside that Badoo, but has grasping draw for 5 cards. A lovely no energy cost attack.
And you have to do this here. Matthias's hand is 2 literally unplayable cards. They're 2 evolutions in the Dusknoir line, with both the Duskull being prized. You had to use Cleffer there. So now we see a Dracloak and a Recon Directive from Giovanni here, going to grab themselves an extra card. And for them, it's going to be the same kind of deal, but they're not, I don't think they're playing any rare candy at all. We did call this a slower version. A second Dracloak, best you could hope for. So now maybe try and get a little more Dreepy down, but honestly, ending with 2 Dracloak and an Itchy Pollen, that is about what Giovanni's looking for here. Oh, energy attachment, to be fair, that's pretty important.
That's very important. As you mentioned, there's not too much sort of acceleration as the Itchy Pollen continues to tick up. That's Cleffa down to 20 HP now. Back over to Matthias. What have you drawn yourself into after that grasping draw? We recon directed first. Energy, ever so important. It looks like a Dragapult EX there as the second option. Just double checking what's available. Has a couple of those pieces which aren't usable because the Duskulls are prized. It's kind of sort of just clogging up the hand at the moment. Looks like just choosing the Dragapult EX as a key core resource to going to eventually sort of move into.
But that's really annoying because he also had the Psychic Energy, and if you get the evolution into Charizard this turn, that'll get you the Fire Energy, so you actually really needed that Psychic Energy to attach for your turn with the Dragapult. That was an annoying recon directive where you looked and said, I really want both of those cards. So we retreat Cleffa for free into the Dragapult. Remember, it does have Jet Headbutt, but won't actually get a KO. It does 70, and Badu has got 80 HP now by virtue of that Bravery Charm.
Yeah, I really like this from Matthias because he knows that he's going to be facing a Dragapult which requires all those energy attachments down on those Draclos, down on those Dreepies, down on those Dragapult EXs. There is no time for Giovanni right now to be getting a Monkey Dory down and a Dark Energy or Luminous Energy attached to it, which means that 70 is going to be hanging around a little bit longer, and eventually when you get a Phantom Dive that you want, you can just tick off that one little extra HP remaining and take multiple knockouts.
And it means you're not knocking out right now, so you're not opening yourself up to something like an Unfair Stamp or a Counter Catcher straight away. So I like it. That's very nice. Now we do get ourselves
an energy.
Yeah, there is a Luminous Energy onto that Dracloak and the Dragapult, so it's actually ready to go now. We got 2 energy on that Dragapult. It is ready to attack. We could see our first Phantom Dive here. We could still go with Itchy Pollen for a while if we prefer, but I am looking at my opponent's board, and they have got the Dragapult, and they have already got a Charmander, so I know they're going to be going sooner rather than later. The question is, do I want another turn to try and slow them down, or do I want to really push damage onto the board? For now, we're going Arven, and it is a Buddy Puffin, because to be fair, that bench is still looking a little bit light for my liking. And then we're also grabbing ourselves that one-of EXP share. We saw this in Alberto Conti's list yesterday.
Yeah, a fantastic inclusion to make sure you can keep energy sort of flowing around the board state. A very key turn here because we're going to be seeing potentially Giovanni actually firing off the first Phantom Dive. Now, one of the things I maybe would like to see is actually hold back from taking a knockout, not really allowing maybe certain cards in Matthias's deck to be utilized, whether it's anything like an Unfair Stamp. Giovanni actually has his one in hand, so if he's the one who loses the prize first, so it goes Jim Matthias takes the prize first, he can utilize his Unfair Stamp and really try and set things back. So it's going to be a sort of a game of chicken here, and it's just going to be that key decision as the Dragapult EX goes into the active spot.
Well, there is a Dreepy here which is in range potentially. If you want to take a KO, there we go. There was 1 damage counter on there. So it's one of those things where everything you said, Alex, was absolutely correct, but you can take out a Dreepy before it evolves into a Dracloak, which is a draw engine and potentially a Dragapult down the line. In the end, that was just too tempting for Giovanni.
Yeah, maybe it's that way to kind of force the issue, start forcing his way to be in a more advantageous position than Matthias here, because of course one of the key things that Giovanni has, being a just straight Dragapult EX build, is a bit more streamlined. You only are focusing on utilizing Phantom Dive all the way through, whereas there's so many more pieces. Matthias has to start trying to comboing and building together. Of course, there's ways to make it a little bit easier with that energy acceleration from that Charizard EX at some stage. That was just a quick check utilizing Artisan there, whether it is available in the deck. Now it's on Matthias to use that Ultra Ball to find which key attacker or maybe key support Pokemon he wants to utilize alongside maybe a Phantom Dive of his own.
That's what we're looking for. Well, it's a Pheasantipity. Remember, a prize was taken last turn, so you can flip the script, draw 3 cards. One thing to keep an eye on as we go through, Dragapult doesn't one-hit KO Dragapult. But if there is exactly 1 prize card remaining for Giovanni, Matthias can get a one-hit KO on a Dragapult using Charizard. So there is that one-hit KO potential on Matthias' side, which is missing from Giovanni's. We're not there yet, and it's harder to set up without using your Dusknoir, but it is something to keep track of as we go through the game. For now, wouldn't mind a Charizard. For now, we're just going to have an Arven.
Yeah, I would love to maybe even see if we can get that energy attachment to that Dragapult EX. Actually, it's got Counter Catcher in hand, could remove something like the opposing Dracloak with that sort of EXP share available right now, but also using something like that Unfair Stamp, so it's almost, you've got gusting power, you've got sort of that way of, you know, manipulating damage counters, but also disrupting your opponent's hand, all together going in one go, and it could be a really devastating play. It does leave the Dragapult EX on his opponent's side as a sort of still a threat, but I think it's something that he's considering here.
It seems like he's setting up for a bit of a reset turn. We got Counter Catcher, we've got Unfair Stamp, we've got a Rescue Board on the active, a TM Evolution on the bench. I'm not saying that is what he's going to do, but it's certainly setting up for it, and essentially just going, look, I'm stranding a Pokemon in the active to hopefully stop you attacking, or at least make you waste an energy. I'm then going to use TM Evolution to set up my bench Pokemon and get rolling in that way. You've got a 2-card hand, the wrong Pokemon in the active. If I can buy myself 1 turn here to TM Evolution unchecked, I'm going to be in a great position when it comes back to me.
Let's see what both our players pick up. No Psychic Energy in hand from Matthias, so he won't be able to launch a big attack off.
Nope.
Only a Boss's Orders and a Counter Catcher in Giovanni. So far the Unfair Stamp has worked, but we're just probably going to have to go down the route that you mentioned. It's either a Technical Machine Evolution route or having to go into Cleffa, but it looks like he's eyeing that up now. Oh, energy attachment to the Charmeleon instead, and it's going to be just a headbutt.
Okay, so what we saw there was basically setting up a bunch of options, playing Unfair Stamp and seeing what stuck. In the end, TM Evolution, not the choice, but I kind of like this because that Dracloak is now very easily KO. He's hit the Unfair Stamp, which would be great if a KO had been taken, but it wasn't. We got Genesect, Unfair Stamp, Counter Catcher, and Boss's Orders. Crucially, none of them are going to be getting that Dragapult out of the active right now.
Oh, that Dracloak, yeah, it's a little bit stuck. This is why I was thinking if a Psychic Energy was hit, maybe just taking it out. It's actually not a bad scenario, because then it limits the draw power that Giovanni would have. But this scenario has also worked out pretty perfectly for Matthias. He does look like he's going to get an extra turn to kind of swing his way back into the game here, as we do see the Artisan being utilized from Giovanni. That does shuffle the actual deck back around again as well, just to kind of see what else is actually there, and maybe just kind of thin the deck out a little bit more. But no choices from the Artisan there for the moment. Monkey Dory is actually prized, so that's not really an easy choice, and looks like just a pass over. Maybe this is the advantage he needed.
If we've got gusting here, this could be a huge turn, because you could hit the Dragapult, you could KO the Dracloak, KO the Badoo, and put 3 damage counters onto Dreepy, which basically means a Charizard KO with 2 prizes remaining rather than 1. Speaking of which, here comes a Rare Candy onto Charizard. This is going to accelerate energy. I don't love hitting into the Dracloak here. I really want to KO it on the bench, but I'm not seeing any gusting available right now. There was no KO, so Pheasantipity won't be flipping the script. So, I mean, look, getting an attack off it, although actually we still need a Psychic Energy just to get the attack off.
Just to get a Phantom Dive off, exactly that. This way, with the Charizard being evolved up, you do get the energies attachment from that Infernal Rain ability. Such a powerful EX, which has sort of seen less play in recent times, but potentially could go into with that Iono as well and look for something like that Psychic Energy. By thinning out the deck with that ability, there's an opportunity to find it a little bit easier. Let's see if we get it here.
And Counter Catcher is still live. There's 2 in the deck. He's behind on prizes. Counter Catcher would do it. We don't see Counter Catcher or Psychic Energy.
Unfortunately, not for Matthias here. We'll have to potentially swing away with a Charizard EX. Doesn't really want to maybe give up that Dragapult EX in the active spot. You want to try and save that energy, save that rescue board, just save your big scary attacker for a future turn, and you can kind of send up the Charizard for the moment. But again, not ideal here. Maybe the Charmeleon could come up and attack.
that would be an option. There was a real chance here to get the counter catcher, psychic energy, double KO while putting a bunch of energy down. Instead, it is just a second headbutt from that Dragapult. You know, jet headbutt, 70 damage. 2-hit KOing a Dracloak with your Dragapult is not what you're aiming for when you're playing this deck. That was, essentially, that was a miss from Matthias. It was not the turn he wanted, but he still has a big Charizard down with a second Charizard threatening afterwards. So we could basically transition into a my Charizard is massive, what are you going to do about it game plan.
Yeah, that's usually the scary thing of facing down against the big Terra Charizard EX, of course. But don't forget, Matthias did have to play the Iono, basically resetting Giovanni's hand and going, well, I'm going to try and aim for this card that I need, but I'm going to have to do it at a risk, because now I've given you 5 new cards to work with, plus the Chop Check, plus now the Recon Directive as well, as we now do see an Ultra Ball coming down. He's going to be pitching away that counter catcher because he knows he's going to be going ahead in prizes.
He is going to be taking another 2 prizes here. Everything is on the board to KO that active Dragapult. You've got your own Dragapult, you've got the energy. Everything from here on in is just setting up for future turns. You want to really try and get an energy down onto that bench Dracloak to help that one in the future. And, you know, Pheasant Dipty for when your opponent takes a KO is a pretty big deal. It's just setting up for the rest of the game. Now, his hand, however, I'm having a quick look here. We do have an Iono. It's not amazing, but it will work. And we do flip the script, of course. A KO was taken on that Dracloak. That's an extra free cards from Giovanni here by virtue of that flip the script ability.
Yeah, I'm just starting to look through some of these lists, try and figure out what routes to victory do we have. One scary thing is that one of those cards I predicted may be coming into play at some point. Matthias doesn't really have an answer to something like the Maractus. So if something does get trapped up, it doesn't look too pretty, but he's not to know for the time being. Giovanni won't know that's necessarily the line he has to go down. He's probably still thinking, well, my Dragapult EX is nice, it's fresh, it's big, it's a threat right now as I power up a second Dracloak on the bench, and maybe this is more than enough for me to take down eventually this game 1 and put myself in a fantastic position.
We got that energy attachment. That was what we needed. The KO is going to come down here. Could actually take 3 prizes if you want to take the Cleffa now. Thing is, when you talk about like Dragapult Charizard, they don't have space for Monkey Dory. They're not going to be playing Darkness Energy, potentially Luminous Energy. You know, they've got enough in the deck.
Well, that being said, he's been able to jam in the Dustwire line, so...
to be fair, yes. But right, okay, but when Dustwire is on, there's no Monkey Dory, is what I'm saying here, Alex.
Definitely not. There is a boss's orders on the Charizard EX.
Like this.
Just trying to soften it up now when it's not able to take any massive return knockouts. This is the Phantom Dive, which is going to be starting to prep such amount of damage on the board, say a 60 going straight onto that Dragapult EX as well. There is so much damage counters now flying around, Ross.
And there's a potential 4 prize turn next turn. That Dragapult should now be 60 damage away from being KO'd. It should be on 260, 60 away from being KO'd, which means that a Phantom Dive next turn can KO both those EXs. And like I say, that Cleffa's sitting there with 20 HP remaining, so even like, I know it's unavailable right now, but if that Monkey Dory were to come out the prizes, that would take an easy KO on the Cleffa, and that would be the game. So I love Giovanni here going, if I take prizes, that helps you, so I'm just going to get a whole bunch of damage. You aren't playing Monkey Dory, so I'm just going to get the damage down. I'll worry about KOs later.
Yeah, but Matthias is one of those players that we've marked out as a player to watch for any of those keen-eyed viewers watching here as well. You know, he's a player who's finished in top 8s, he's finished in top 16s, he's been in these positions before. He's going to try and figure out which route he will need to take to maybe overcome this position with all of those damage counters on the board. 460 damage, or 470 damage is currently on his board right now, but what can Matthias do here as we do get a Dracloak going as well? That one does have a Psychic Energy waiting to go.
I would love a fresh Charizard. There's a Charmeleon on the board. It's got an energy down. I think, you know, that Charizard in the active, you can't leave it in the active, it's going to get KO'd. So, and there is a Charizard in hand, so I think evolve this one, try and get an energy, and just not give my opponent a 4-prize turn next turn. That is really not what I'm looking to do, unless I think I can take, you know, give up the 4 prizes, and then and put up a big Charizard with 1 prize remaining. There is that comeback potential for Charizard. That can happen.
I'm sure he's starting to think about those future turns as well. He does see that Dracloak on the back of Giovanni's bench with 1 energy attached, and as long as Giovanni does get another Dragapult with another energy, a Psych Energy specifically, then that kind of does put the limit and kind of sets up this kind of checkmate board. We do see a big swing here by the Charizard EX, something we don't get to see as much anymore. Burning Darkness, 180 damage, 30 more for each prize card your opponent's taken, so 210 currently sat on that Dragapult EX.
And here's the thing, if there was a Dust Noir available, then Dust Noir could finish that off, take you 2 prizes mid-turn. It's not available this game. Both the Dust Noir are just out of action right now. So that means that essentially Giovanni's going to take 4 prizes this turn. All he needs to do is just announce Phantom Dive, take 4 prizes, and then that Cleffa is going to be very enticing. Now, you might notice that Charizard didn't come out, and I'm wondering whether Matthias is trying to slow roll a bit here, surprise with that second Charizard and go, Charizard, now I'm rolling.
I think it's one of those also scary things as well, because we got to start managing those resources, all those energies. There are currently 4 fire energies on the board, so even if it evolves up, there's only potentially 1 energy kind of hiding away in the deck, which obviously would come out with that Infernal Rain ability, as we do get the second key attachment to that Dracloak now. That Luminous Energy has now hit the field, so he just needs to eventually find a way into a Dragapult EX, especially if he's going to take knockouts here, especially if he's going to be thinking, well, actually, I'm probably going to get Iono'd next turn. He has to start thinking about playing around this. Does have Brock Scouting in hand. I'm not too sure he's played a supporter yet, so maybe he just goes for the Iono first, scared of what Matthias is kind of building in the background.
I don't mind this. Your last chance to get 5 cards before you're going to be going down big in terms of getting a lot of prizes. We got Blood Moon Ursaluna. We've got an Ultra Ball. So if you want to get the Dragapult now, you can get it. Or you can just wait. Next turn, you will have Recon Directive. Having said that, I'm having a look at the prizes. There's only 1 Dragapult remaining, and it is in the prizes, which means essentially Matthias' route to victory seems to be get your Charizard, put it in the active, I know your opponent to 1, and just hope Giovanni doesn't get another Dragapult. If they do, that is game over.
Yeah, maybe that's exactly why that Brock Scouting wasn't played in that turn, as we do see the massive 4 prize taken, 1 prize remaining for Giovanni there, and now it's on Matthias to try and stem the flow, because he has to make sure he gets an Ione off this turn and make sure there's a way to just kind of prevent Giovanni from finding a Dragapult, because just 1 more Phantom Dive, especially when that Cleffa is just waiting in the wings, will actually be a loss for Matthias' side right now. So what can we do here? Has access to shuffle up the deck, because he saw an Iono already go down to the bottom of it from a Recon Directive. Here's a big flick the script. Can we find an Iono to try and slow the game down and bring it back in his favor?
No, we got
yet.
Boss's Orders, Counter Catcher, and Dragapult. Now we got a Recon Directive. We hit the Iono, okay.
Big.
We hit the Iono off of that, but we still need the Charizard. We haven't got the Charizard yet.
It could be the Dragapult for the time being as well. You just kind of give yourself both options. There's an extra fire energy in hand right now. This is the option. This is the reason why maybe he didn't evolve up and attach the 5th fire energy to it, because now he can launch off with potentially a Phantom Dive and maybe start spreading some damage and just causing a bit more chaos on Giovanni's board. He's got a lot of things going for himself. He needs to kind of maybe just take a moment, be quite measured here, and think about exactly what he needs to go for future turns, because at the end of the day, after the Iono, if Giovanni could just find a Dragapult, that does mean Matthias will likely lose this game, because that Cleffa just has 20 HP remaining.
And it's also worth noting the other win condition for Giovanni would be a Monkey Dory with a Darkness Energy, but it's not there available right now. The other advantage here is, oh yeah, we got the energy. So we got the energy. We're just essentially trying to do as much as we can. We're going to Iono. We almost don't want to take prizes here because of Flip the Script, though.
Good point. It's a good film, but you have to sort of get rid of the Dragapult EX, because you don't want that Phantom Dive to be so easy. You want Giovanni to have to find a Boss's Orders, have to find a Dragapult EX somehow, and, you know, if Flip the Script is going to be the game-winning flip the script potentially for Giovanni. So be it. We're just doing what we can here, as it is a Phantom Dive announcement. Big knockout on opposing Dragapult EX. Where does this 6 damage counters go? Right now, maybe a little bit less relevant for the moment. Just targeting the one going on a Badoo. Let's take an extra prize. We're putting one of Pheasantipity, getting it ready for a future attack. And the remaining, I should say, on that Dracloak. Let's see what Giovanni is going to be working with here.
And you had to get a KO the Badoo. You don't know Monkey Dory is not an option. You had to. Oh no, because there's damage on the Dragapult. That's not even that relevant. What's he hit? What's he hit?
Nothing yet. Flip the script. Nice stretcher.
Next stretcher.
That's it. That'll be the Dragapult. And that'll be the knockout on the Cleffa, taking the final prize for Giovanni there. A great way of playing this slow Dragapult, utilizing that Badoo behind it and building behind and taking out all those big stage 2s.
That was a great pickup. Nice stretcher goes and gets the Dragapult, and that's all you needed. It doesn't matter what happens to the active, you just needed to KO the Cleffa. Here's your replay of game 1 then, and we start off with that Brave Badoo from Giovanni there, just using that itchy pollen. Then we start attacking with Dragapult, and Giovanni really had the early pressure. We saw all that damage coming down onto the Dragapult, and then we took out that Dreepy early doors, taking away the option of things like Recon Directive. We then see that big boss's orders onto that Charizard, setting up that 4 prize KO, 200 to the Charizard, 60 to the Dragapult, so that you can then do the same thing the following turn. That's 4 big prizes, putting Giovanni down to just 1 prize remaining, and Matthias tried to make a comeback, but that hit from the nice stretcher to grab the Dragapult was all it took, and that gave Giovanni game 1.
Yeah, what an interesting back and forth there, because it was only 1 prize taken from both our players so long, as we get a chance to learn game 2 prizes. The unfair stamp currently sat in the prizes on Giovanni's side of the board. They are going straight into game 2. Matthias will be going second here, his choice of course, because he has lost game 1. We do get a luxurious Dreepy in the active spot with an energy attachment. That's usually a pretty good start already, but Matthias is flying through with an Arven coming straight down after benching 2 Dreepies.
I don't love the fact that that's all you've got. One thing to bear in mind, Luxurious Cape only works on a non-rule box Pokemon, so you won't get the extra prize if you knock out a Dragapult once you've actually get up and rolling. So that's kind of important. Right now, Matthias wants to KO that Dreepy. 2 prizes off a Dreepy, yes. But once it evolves up, that will then go away.
I mean, right now, 170 HP Dreepy, it's a big boy.
Well, that's what you're doing. You're basically saying, I really don't want you to KO this too early. I've got to take this risk. Matthias, on the other hand, you know, with Arven and Buddy Poffin, you've already got your Charmander, you've got Cleffa in the active, you've got a couple Dreepy on the bench. You've got a lot of stuff going on, so you can try and TM Evolution here, or you can just draw up with Cleffa.
I believe there was a Technical Machine Evolution in hand. But at the same time, this is, you know, do we start rushing through? Is there energy? I don't think there's energy available. So it might be a Cleffa play here for the moment, as we do see the Buddy Poffin utilized for that Charmander, for that Dreepy. Don't see the energy. There is an Ultra Ball as well, so can thin down that hand a little bit further. Decides to go with that Dragapult EX and that Technical Machine Evolution, so he will be able to grasp and draw for at least sort of 5 cards right now, depending, of course, whether he's going to bench that 4th and final Dreepy. Goes for the Duskull, something we didn't get a chance to see, of course, in the last game, and we know could be very, very relevant.
Yeah, whenever you see a player thinning out their hand like this aggressively, it is a dead giveaway that something like Cleffa is coming out. So Grasping Draw lets you draw 5 cards. You nailed it, Alex. It is 5. And that means that hopefully we're going to have an explosive turn 2. There's only 23 minutes left on the clock. That is why Matthias is playing so quickly.
Yeah, we do have that evolution up to a Dracloak. Now we've got 190 HP Dracloak instead. Counter Catcher looked like it was taken from that Recon Directive. Does have the extra energy in hand as well. Could fire off a headbutt, but we do get a Brock Scouting being played now. Finally able to utilize a supporter, which allows you to grab 2 basic Pokemon or one evolution Pokemon. It's one of those sort of soft mini counters to Badoos that are maybe being focused from your opponent's side of the board as well, because that allows you to get your evolution Pokemon, or even sometimes your basics, like your Blood Moon Ursalunas, like your Pheasantipity EX, and get them on the board state without having to play an item. Looks like it's the choice of a second Dreepy there, and also that ever so menacing Badoo is coming down onto that board.
And I feel pretty confident we're going to see a retreat from the Dracloak into the Badoo, and we're going to start ticking up that itchy pollen counter again, because your opponent is threatening a very explosive turn if you let them do whatever they want. Maybe we should slow them down a little bit. So you can get the Dracloak out the active. You could, if you wanted, attach and then KO the Cleffa, but I think probably going into Badoo is far more likely, and if it's feeling a little bit itchy in here, there's a good reason for it.
Poor little baby Cleffa, currently tilted to the side, about to be dealt with some hay fever on its own side, as 10 HP or 10 damage is taken onto that Cleffa because of that itchy pollen now. 20 HP remaining was quite relevant, maybe not so much because it's only 30 HP anyway, but an Arven being utilized now from Mateus' side. I didn't get a chance to really look at that hand to see what Mateus could be working with, but of course this Arven allowing you to grab one item card which can't be played and a tool card. So let's see the direction that Mateus takes with this.
I'm pretty sure he had a Charizard in hand, one of those big stage 2s. So this Arven would have allowed him to just go rare candy, Charizard, free retreat the Cleffa, and then start swinging away. Even if it is into a Badoo, it would have given a big, powerful Pokemon to start swinging into. If you could maybe get a couple of Dracloak as well, that could have been the start, because basically with 20 minutes left on the clock, Matthias isn't thinking, well, you know, nice slow victory, slow and steady wins a race. Matthias is thinking, win fast, win fast, win fast, win fast. Tie is fine, but you want the win, and you don't have that much time to pull it off. We've got Candy, we got Charizard, but instead we have to settle for a Charmeleon, an attachment, and then we're just going to draw up to 7 with Cleffa's Grasping Draw.
Yeah, I don't know, it may seem like, you know, I'm only saying this in hindsight after seeing the discard of the technical machine evolution, but I was thinking maybe actually holding on to that could have been quite useful here. He only plays the one copy, and knowing maybe he'll be under Badoo lock at some stage, not Badoo lock, but item lock from the Badoo, I should say, it does mean that technical machine evolution could have been really, really useful there to build up the board state, get some of those Dracloak in play, but so have it, we had to grasping draw, and we're going to have to now keep seeing our opponent get his own Dracloaks down. Double Dracloak coming into the hand from that, is that the Jacq?
It's Zim.
Oh, Zim. Ah.
Who is obviously Jacq.
Yeah, yes, of course. As you would know. But yes, that is a Jacq that allows you to grab 2 evolution Pokemon, so perfect synergy to grab some of those Dracloak. You still got draw power from the Recon Directives, as you do see double energy hit there from the second Recon Directive. Just an easy choice. Maybe save the Luminous Energy, maybe for one of those Monkey Dories at some stage as well. You know, you can utilize that Psychic. Oh, it looks like we might be firing off a big Phantom Dive soon, Ross.
Yeah, it looks like it's not soon, Alex. Right now, Badoo retreats, and once again, second game in a row, Giovanni taking the initiative here, and of course, that Duskull's only got 60 HP. 60 HP basics right now are very worrying, and one of the biggest reasons is, well, there's 2, double Monkey Dory, and it's Dragapult. Dragapult drops 6 damage counters, that Duskull goes down, It means there's no Dusknoir coming out. You don't mind giving up a prize when your Dusclops or your Dusknoir, you know that's going to happen. Giving up a prize from your Duskull feels bad, and now not only are you 1 game down, but you're 2 prizes down, and your opponent's got a better board setup than you right now.
And when you are facing up against a Dragapult that's already come out, usually you want to try and evolve up to that Dusclops as soon as possible to just stop any weird shenanigans from Phantom Dive, and now doesn't have the time or sort of the opportunity to utilize that Curse Blast ability from either the Dusclops or the Dusknoirs, so has to pitch it away right now with that Ultra Ball, with that Fire Energy as well, trying to get the Dracloak, trying to get some things going, because he has to really stem the tide here, because right now his opponent has a stage 2 with draw power in the back. He's got his own though, the Charizard here. He was also double checking there was enough Fire Energies available. Of course, I'm sure from that point, And we do just kind of double check. There they are. They were together. I'm pretty sure that's why he checked with the Ultra Ball at the same time.
He had enough darkness and fire energy. There's one in the prizes, but we had enough for now. It's not going to get a KO here. It's going to do 240 damage, 180 plus 30 for each of the prizes taken. 240 is not too bad. 270 would be better.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know what? 240 is not a bad start. Get a lot of damage on the board and then figure it out later. So here we see an Ultra Ball coming down, and presumably for another Dracloak here.
Yeah, I would like to see another Dracloak come into this. And both players as well, just double checking exactly what's happened there, but it's all good. So we're going to see that Ultra Ball being utilized right now.
Oh, Pheasant Dipty, even better.
Yeah, more cards, flip the script, allowing yourself after an opponent has taken a knockout on their turn. You can utilize this ability to see 3 further cards. It's a card which is pretty much splashed in every single deck right now.
Oh, it's one of the best cards we've ever had in the history of the game, frankly. And now we see a Buddy Buddy Poffin, which you don't really need anything right now, but I mean, you can't get a Duskull, really. I think Duskull will be a pretty bad idea, but you could maybe get a Charmander or a Dreepy. And this is one of the things, right? With your 60 HP Duskull, you know that Dragapult is attacking next turn. You can't get Duskull.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things where we're just double checking, maybe just getting it out of the deck as well, especially if you're going to be using Unfair Stamp. Unlike Iono, where your opponent and yourself put your hand to the bottom of your deck, Unfair Stamp is a shuffle into the deck, and you draw 5 as the player who played it, 2 if you were the opponent who has just taken a prize on your last turn. So here we go. Could be a big 5 cards. Finds another Dracloak. Big pick up there, so more draw power, which is always important in the Pokemon trading card game. Counter Catcher, Super Rod, 2 very good resource managing cards there. Of course, can decide to maybe take down some of the draw power that Giovanni had, but opts to go with the Super Rod, and it's a big Burning Darkness, 240 damage that you've correctly said, Ross.
Yeah, 240. My issue with 240 is it's not 60 away from being KO'd. So you cannot just KO with a residual damage from a Phantom Dive, which means you'll probably have to have another proper hit onto it, and then you're just 2-hit KOing. What I want from Charizard here is basically it's either a hit and then finish with a Dragapult, or a hit combined with a Dusknoir to get a KO, or a late game really big KO. I don't just want to do a 2-hit KO, because then I'm 2-hit KOing Dragapult, they're 2-hit KOing me, while dropping 12 damage counters. That's not even.
Yeah, you're right. But one of the things that Tearsome Shaw was hoping for was trying to stem the flow just by not getting the energy attachment on Giovanni's side of the board, because, you know, if you can prevent your opponent, especially a slow Dragapult player, actually to utilize and not be able to actually attach an energy to another bench Dracloak ready for a next Dragapult EX, that could be ever so important, maybe even more important than necessarily taking a knockout or doing massive amounts of damage, and you're okay doing the 2-hit knockout here. But that being said, that energy search was found. Psychic energy has been attached to the bench Dracloak and an Iono to boot as well.
And everything's just going nicely for Giovanni here. What they really need to do in this game, and most games, is just keep your Dragapult rolling, and that's what he's doing, keeping the Dragapult rolling. He's got his Pheasant Dipty for a future turn if he wants it, not live now, of course, but could be next turn. And it just feels like what Giovanni's doing in this game is just always attacking with Dragapult, and he's getting better starts than his opponent. He's keeping, you know, we've not seen Dusknoir, and we're not really going to see it now for the entire matchup. And when you can pull that off, you're feeling pretty good about yourself.
Absolutely. So if you are just joining us here at the Bologna Special Championships, we are Swiss round 12, 13 minutes, or just over 13 minutes to go. Giovanni did take a back and forth game 1, but was able to take a massive 4-prize turn on a Charizard EX and a Dragapult EX. Mateus here in this game 2, looking to try and turn that around, has a fresh Charizard, is currently behind on prizes, but Giovanni is the one with damage counters currently on the board. Phantom Dive being announced here. 200 damage going on to this Charizard EX. 1 at least, I'm sure, will be going on that Pheasant Dipty to kind of get it in range. And now I'm working with 5 more. So we're just going to place it free on the Dracloak. Get that ready again in range. of another Phantom Dive on the next turn. 1 to get that in range of another Phantom Dive on the next turn, and then just confirmation that that luxurious cape, that Dragapult EX is not quite luxurious as you'd expect.
No, it stopped working as soon as we evolved up into an EX. No extra HP, no extra prizes. It does nothing. But you said about the damage placement there, it's perfect. Fezandipti now has 200 HP remaining, gets KO'd by a Phantom Dive, and both Dracloak and Dreepy have 60 HP remaining, which means a residual damage from a Phantom Dive will get that KO. Giovanni is playing this absolutely wonderfully. I'll be honest, that extra damage counter on the other Dracloak isn't really doing very much, but it had to go somewhere.
Yeah, so why not? Why not? Let's just spread it around. Let's see what other shenanigans might sort of come down. Here we do see the Night Stretcher on Mateus' side of the board. He's going to be prepping his own Dragapult EX now. He's evolved up, the one that had 30 damage on it. Gets the Psychic Energy attachment to that bench Dragapult EX. Another Dreepy down, prepping for future turns. Let's see which way we can do this turn here. The Iono is also being played as well. Let's bring it back down to 4 cards for Giovanni. I actually think he had less than 4 following that turn, but you know, you want to be seeing 6 further cards if you're Mateus, so let's see which way we go.
One important point to note, Giovanni had the Fezandipti in hand, chose not to play it last turn so it wasn't going to be activated. It's now stuck at the bottom of the deck. He's going to need to shuffle his deck.
Yeah, we do see another Dracula come down now as well, and you're right, we're starting to also see cards like that, unfortunately not very useful Genesect currently in Giovanni's hand, because that unfair stamp has already been played. It wasn't quite as unfair in nature as you'd like to expect, but Mateus now is just double checking. He's just going to be swinging away with that Burning Darkness. Charizard EX taking names right now, bringing Mateus back in line on prizes up against Giovanni, and it's just a Badoo right now, has that fantastic free retreat. Let's see how Giovanni plays out this turn.
Well, first things first, we need an energy, and it must be a fire, and we need a Dragapult EX. Now, we do see the fire energy. Oh, it's a fire energy and a counter catcher. This seems like a pretty easy decision. Counter catcher isn't live, and you're desperate for a fire energy right now. We see a second recon directive. Can we hit the Dragapult EX? Yes, because we've hit Night Stretcher, and there's a Dragapult EX in the discard pile. That is as good as hitting the Dragapult. So we got a free retreating Badoo, we got the energy and the Night Stretcher for the Dragapult. The attack is coming out this turn.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm sure Mateus would have liked to try to prep would have been maybe another Charmander, another Charizard, another big EX attacker, especially one that sort of ramps up with prizes being taken by your opponent. There's that Dragapult EX, of course, such a powerful, powerful attacker. We've seen it throughout this weekend so far, and we're going to continue seeing it because it's so good right now in the meta game. That Phantom Dive kind of keeping a lot of those smaller baby Pokemon sometimes in check, but also dealing a massive amount of damage, as we do see the free retreat from the Badoo, Dragapult in the active.
And that means a Phantom Dive, you will get a KO on the Charizard. Now, there's nothing actually set up on the bench to get a KO at this point, because we saw evolutions of both the Pokemon that were potentially in range of getting KO'd. But what you can do is get a bunch of damage counters on the board to set up for the future. You can't quite get there, but you can put each Dracloak up to 3, you can put the Dreepy up to 1, put each of them, essentially same deal as last time. You evolve these or they will be KO'd next turn.
Yeah, exactly. But again, got to be keeping an eye out on future Charizard EX. There's the Phantom Dive announcement going straight to the discard pile. There we go. Looks like it's going to be that little cheeky 1 damage counter from Phantom Dive onto the Dreepy. And we are targeting those 2 Dracloaks as well. They are going to be ramped up to at least 3 each, I'm sure. Again, put them in 60 damage counters range. That means we are still playing with 1 more damage counter. That Fezandipti going to 190 HP remaining.
Just like last turn, we had 5. We really needed to play somewhere specific, and the 6th one, you were like, I don't really care. It's not that relevant. It's not manipulating the numbers well enough. So, I think you're right. I think we need a Charizard. Now, we ain't getting it this turn, but we could potentially get a Charizard next turn. So here comes an Artisan, and that will get you your Charmander if you want it, if it's in the deck, mind you.
Yeah, you're right. But at the same time, we've got to start thinking Giovanni basically with no way of having that Dragapult EX right now being knocked out, because there's no access to something like a Duskull, Dusclops, Dustoir, and an attack on that Dragapult EX. It does mean Giovanni, if that Dragapult EX does not get knocked out, is only a boss's orders away from winning this game and taking this sort of round as well. So Mateus has just again got to figure out exactly how we do this. Ultra Balling away that Charmander now with that Duswa also hitting the discard, getting that Dragapult already as well. We are just double checking Matthias. How many Dragapult does he play? He plays 2 Dragapult, so can't exactly evolve up 2 of them. It's just going to be that extra one that will be evolved up. And that's what the kind of decision is going to be here. There we go. Recon Directive first before even that option. Finds Iono. Big, easy pickup.
Oh, yes. That's what you want. Put your opponent down to a 2-card hand. And here's the thing. That Dragapult right now is getting another attack off. But there is a world in which, essentially, you hit the Dragapult, they take a prize, you hit it again and KO it, and Giovanni doesn't have another attacker. That's what you're hoping for if you are Matthias here.
Let's see what he picks up from those 2 cards as well. Dragapult and energy. So it's a good sign for the moment at the very least.
That's kind of perfect. You need 3 cards. It's 2 energy and a Dragapult. So having 2 of them in your hand is actually kind of redonkulous.
But does mean Giovanni wouldn't necessarily have win next turn for the moment without boss's orders, of course, because this Dragapult will be able to tank a hit, be able to take on a Phantom Dive from Matthias' side. We do see a further flip the script as well. But of course, never forget, Giovanni still has a Recon Directive waiting in the wings, which is also ever so important. Retreat into the Dragapult EX now by Matthias. It's going to be a big Phantom Dive. After, let's play down some more cards first, double check what's available for myself, get it out of the deck in case anything comes down. Phantom Dive, 60 damage counters onto that Dragcloak, doesn't want to activate Pheasantipity. Let's see what this top deck is. It's a Buddy Poffin.
And actually, to be fair, we could. Now, here comes the Dragcloak. We need to try and see some kind of gusting. Game is actually on board for Matthias next turn. He can take 4 prizes next turn, KO all 3 of those Pokemon. But we need some gusting to start off with from this Dragcloak. Gusting will be the game. It's a counter catcher, but you're not behind on prizes, so that is not going to work. We could still evolve up the Dragapult, though, and that would mean that Matthias could only take 3 prizes next turn. So you need to play defense.
And we'll still get an energy attachment on it as well, because we have seen, of course, that Luminous Energy. There we go. Does have 6 damage counters on it, dealing 200 to this Dragapult. Does take it to 230. A Jet Headbutt will not be enough on the next turn, so we'll still need to look for future cards as well. Artisan now being utilized. Again, double checking. That deck is still pretty big, and it's not something you get too often, but is it enough to kind of get that shuffled around, try and get that boss's orders and an energy, or I should just say maybe just an energy on the next turn. Won't have any draw power, however.
Nope, no draw power. That's one of the things. You had to evolve up your Dragcloak, or else Matthias had game on the board, but that meant you had to take away that Recon Directive, so you are in top deck mode with, I don't want to be rude, a pretty terrible hand. So you are really by the skin of your teeth here. Now, here we go with the attack. You're going to get 200 damage onto the Dragapult. You're not winning the game here, but you can get a KO. It's got to be on one of the Dragcloak, presumably. Take that off the board, and then that's just one less card that Matthias is going to have access to.
Absolutely. You don't want to give him... Oh, he's kind of spreading it out right now. I'm surprised, because then the next turn, if that Dragapult didn't go down, he could technically boss his orders and Jet Headbutt for the win. But this is the board state that he's gone with. Doesn't want to give that further draw. Now, Matthias is going to have a very important decision here. If he takes 3 prizes this turn, that would actually activate Giovanni's counter catcher in hand.
Yes.
He won't notice that it's there, but that's going to be a scary thought, because often with these sort of slower Dragapult builds, they do lean heavily into the counter catchers. They do heavily lean into those boss's orders, but it's just which direction Matthias takes on this turn. This is going to be so important.
Essentially, what you want to do here, if you can't win the game, you want to go down to 2 prizes just to make sure that counter catcher is not an option. Set up the KO for the following turn, but either win or leave 2 prizes remaining. That is absolutely crucial here. What we'd love to get is a Dragapult here. Bring up something that isn't going to just be return KO'd by that Dragapult. So here comes the Iono. Giovanni gets a fresh 2 cards. Matthias gets a fresh 4 cards. It's an Iono and a Latias EX. And there's an Iono. Do we have any kind of Dragapult?
It's a Dragapult in hand, I believe I've seen. And it's got a... Well, had a choice between a counter catcher and another card there. second recon directive. That deck is looking pretty thin. Boss's orders kind of kept into the deck for now. Super Rod there. But I think there is a Dragapult in hand right now. But is there? Oh, he's got 2 energies already attached to that
energy's
Dragapult.
Good. You just basically evolve into Dragapult. You announce the attack and then put the damage on the benched Dragapult. You don't want to KO the Badoo as well for that exact reason. And then we go back over to Giovanni and see if they can find a way to end out the game.
Yeah, so he's just getting those energies back into the deck, prepped in case he needs to find another, maybe retreat. Maybe there's a gusting of, actually, it wouldn't even, actually, no, yeah, if there's a gusting of that Pheasantipity without energy and maybe trying to lock out opponent from that type of play, as we do get the Phantom Dive announcement.
And we see the Phantom Dive, we get the KO, we get it onto the Dragapult. This is crucial. Badoo does not go down there, even on prizes. Counter Catcher is not active. Do we see an energy? No, it's a Badoo top deck, so it's going to have to basically be use Artisan. Get a card out of your deck. It doesn't even really matter what, just get you -1 card in deck so that when you play that INO, you've got a slightly better chance of drawing what you want. Monkey Dory is not going to do it, unfortunately. That's not really a win condition right now. And honestly, if you've got an energy, it kind of needs to go on to your Dragapult to get an attack off.
Yep, so this is going to be a big key Iono here. Both down to 2 prizes. He's just deciding whether he benches other cards as well, but opts not to, because generally won't be sort of shuffling that deck around anytime soon. This is the only draw power he's got, and that does mean he needs the energy here for any sort of attack. Doesn't hit it, has a Bravery Charm.
Bravery Charm, I think, has to go onto the Dragapult. If Dragapult is in range.
I don't think that works.
I think he's picking up his cards. I think that might be it. I think we might have the win for Matthias here, and we are at 1 game each, but I don't think there is going to be enough time for a game 3.
No, very little time on the clock, Matthias. I mean, it took a bit longer than he would have liked, perhaps, because, you know, we saw how pretty quickly he was playing out those first turn, but he was able to clutch this game 2, as we do get a chance to just recap exactly what happened. We had 2 big Terra Pokemon EXs in the active spot, swinging away at one another. Charizard dealing 240 damage to this Dragapult EX. This Dragapult was hanging in there, of course, just kind of setting himself a big, massive wall, but it did eventually go down, leveling the prizes. But Giovanni was able to then knock out that Charizard and actually go down to 2 prizes himself. And it was just back-to-back sort of Ionos, which kept Matthias in a fantastic spot. Recon Directive did not hit the cards that Giovanni needed. It was just the boss's orders away from actually taking game 2 and this round, but it wasn't to be. A second Dragapult comes down, a further Phantom Dive here from Matthias, leveling up the prizes once again, not activating, crucially, that Counter Catcher. And then finally, it was just an Iono and hope, but only hit a Bravery Charm and a Jacques, which meant the writing was on the wall.
And there we see the prizes being picked up. That is all she wrote. So we have a look at the prizes here. There's nothing terribly relevant. 1 Dreepy and 1 Dracloak. But the most important thing is time has been called. So yeah, we get 3 turns. Not even a turn 0, literally just 3 turns. So Giovanni...
They did have a turn 0.
Oh, they did have a turn.
Oh,
they did. I apologize. Matthias gets turn 0, just attached. Giovanni has 1 turn, and then Matthias gets a turn. Giovanni has the final turn. Here's the deal. If somebody could just, if both players bench a couple of basics, that's going to be the game. So Giovanni here, benching a couple of basics, basically means they cannot lose the game, because Matthias is going to have exactly 1 turn to try and KO the Maractus and the Badoo and the Dreepy. So Matthias here does have a tiny bit of work to do. He needs to make that Charmander not get KO'd, and then that will guarantee the tie.
Yeah, just to remind viewers, as Ross has been kind of discussing as well, we've got that little die on the middle of the board just to indicate this is turn 1. Matthias will be turn 2 after having his first turn, which was turn 0. And Giovanni, after item locking because of that Badoo, and it just double checking, it's just there we go, just a marker of the 2 turns. There are no items that can be played. There is an Iono. So actually, Giovanni has a chance here. As you've already mentioned, if there is no further benched Pokemon, is there a world in a way where you can actually deal enough damage to knock out this Charmander?
Yeah, Rare Candy, Dragapult, Energy, Retreat, Badoo, Jet, Headbutt, boom,
there
game.
you go.
So If Matthias benches a basic Pokemon here, we've got a tie. Otherwise, Jet Headbutt could win the game for Giovanni here. Had he got an energy on the Dreepy, he could actually potentially get a double KO.
Sorry to break.
Oh, he's not playing any candy, is he?
This is a slower Dragapult, which typically doesn't have any rare candies. It's not playing the one-off.
Oh, Matthias doesn't get another basic. So now we need to start thinking, is there any way that we could actually get the KO coming down here? There will be no rare candy Dragapult because there is no rare candy in the deck. One of them could lead to the win here. We need to do, is it 60 damage?
Here's 60 damage remaining on that Charmander, and I'm just trying to think if there's any way of doing it. I mean, all of the sort of Dragapult or Dracloak line generally needs 2 energy attachments, and that's not really going to do anything.
We need something for a single energy, like Maractus can do 20. That's not going to be enough.
No, his Charmanders are definitely not weak to any sort of grass shenanigans, so that's not really going to help. There's definitely no water Pokemon that's dealing 30 damage that will allow that sort of to be ticked over to 60. But I guess Giovanni's just kind of double checking what is available. I mean, Matthias is kind of thinking, well, surely not. But I guess those palms are going to be pretty sweaty because he's going to be thinking, does he have a way if he's still playing this out? We're double checking. This is turn 3 of time, of course, in the Swiss round 12. It's just double checking. There's Recon Directive here.
Goes and gets himself a Jacques, I believe, but I don't think there's anything he can go and get here. It's just a case of, can he deal 60 damage? Energy on Monkey Dory, that is the game, and there we see a tie. Matthias and Giovanni, both players playing fantastically, 1 game apiece. Unfortunately, no time for a game 3, so we end up with a tie. One thing that might make them feel better is that as it stands at the moment, a win to put one of them onto 28 points might not have been enough. I'm having a look at the pairings as they go. If there is a winner, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's have a look at the replay first. In this game 3, and it was just a retreat into a Badoo. Make sure there's no rare candy into Charizard or anything like that. And then Matthias there looking at his hand, having a bit of a chuckle there, you can see in the face cam. He's like, I've got nothing. Let's